Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to the big news of the day. If you are finding our new initiative to be helpful, do let us know in the comments and also let us know about the other topics that you would like us to cover under the big news. The topic for today is the European Union's Digital Markets Act, which has been recently finalized by the European Union. And through this short and crisp analysis, we are going to evaluate the objectives, provisions, and implications of the Digital Markets Act of the European Union. See, this topic is in news because last Thursday, the EU has finalized the Digital Markets Act. It is essentially a set of new laws that the EU is trying to bring out to regulate the way in which the big tech firms are operating. The term big tech refers to the major tech companies of the world, such as Apple, Google, Meta, or previously known as Facebook, Amazon, etc. These mega tech companies have nearly established a monopoly in their respective segments, and the way in which they operate has raised serious concerns regarding their users' data privacy, fair access and competition for other smaller players in the industry, and these concerns have even led to antitrust investigations against these big tech companies across several countries. So, on these issues, the European Union and few European countries have a long standing dispute with the big tech firms, and hence, in order to regulate their functioning and to provide for a digital sector that is fair and competitive, the European Council, which is one of the primary organs of the EU, has brought out a set of laws known as the Digital Markets Act. And once they are enacted and enforced, they will have wide ramifications not just for Europe, but for the tech industry across the world as well. See, the primary focus of the Digital Markets Act is to regulate the functioning of the so-called gatekeepers. Under the proposed act, the big tech companies are being brought under the definition of gatekeepers, and it essentially refers to those companies which often control distribution, be it the distribution of other mobile applications or advertisements, or even the level playing field and access available to other applications on their respective platforms. See, these big tech companies are being referred to as the gatekeepers as they perform a dual role in the digital world. On one hand, companies like Apple and Google are developing their own operating systems, such as Mac and Android, respectively, and they also build and sell their own devices, including smartphones, touchpads, laptops, etc. So essentially, they are the producers of key hardware and software in the digital world, and this gives them enormous control over digital access to other developers and companies. It also gives them tremendous power to influence user behavior, thereby enabling them to establish near dominance in the industry. So, in order to regulate their functioning and to provide for a level playing field, the EU is bringing out these laws under which these tech companies will be referred to as the gatekeepers. And any such company which has an annual turnover of at least 7.5 billion euros within the EU in the past 3 years, or a company having a market valuation of at least 75 billion euros, they will be classified under the definition of gatekeepers. Even those tech companies which have over 45 million monthly end users with at least 10,000 business users also qualify to be regulated as the gatekeepers. However, small and medium enterprises are being exempted from being identified as gatekeepers. So essentially, the law aims to cover marketplaces and app stores, search engines, social networking platforms, cloud services, voice assistants, and even web browsers. So now, let us take a quick look at the proposals being made by this law. The law states that the users will have the right to choose and install their applications. So the law is promoting user choice when it comes to installing applications, especially third-party applications, which are often restricted by the gatekeepers. So this means there would be a crackdown on pre-installed applications on your mobile phones. And if implemented and enforced, going forward in the EU, the devices manufactured by Apple and Google cannot come with preloaded or pre-installed applications. When the EU wants to promote interoperability between the basic functionalities of messaging services, for example, the EU wants a user on WhatsApp to be able to message and interact with a user on iMessage. See, currently, messaging and communication on a particular platform is limited to only the users of that particular platform. But EU wants to promote cross-functionality and interoperability so that users will be able to communicate between different platforms across operating systems. But it is not clear how this interoperability will be achieved, and this will definitely require major technical changes from the companies. The proposed rules also call for fair access conditions to app stores that are owned by the gatekeepers. Currently, Apple's App Store and Google's Play Store are the dominant app stores, and they tightly restrict and regulate the user's access to other third-party applications on their platforms. So this is where the EU wants to intervene because it is giving these companies an unfair advantage to push their own applications on their users by limiting access to other third-party applications. But companies like Apple and Google have long opposed such restrictions by citing security concerns that arise out of third-party apps. And Apple in particular has been opposing access to third-party app stores by citing serious cybersecurity risks. On the other hand, on Google Play Store, third-party app stores are allowed, but however, their reach, their access and influence is extremely limited as Google uses its dominance to just promote the Play Store and the apps on the Play Store. Further, the law also proposes that gatekeepers cannot establish unfair conditions for business users, or they cannot mandate app developers to use only their own payment services in order to be listed on their app stores. For example, currently, many app developers have a big complaint with Apple and Google that they are allowed to be listed on their Play stores only when they use their payment systems such as Google Pay and Apple Pay. So the EU wants these restrictions to be removed, which is giving dominance and near monopoly to the gatekeepers and their own applications. The EU also wants the app developers to get fair access to other functionalities on your smartphones. For example, a lot of vital data is collected on your phones through various functionalities such as Bluetooth, near-field communication, and through other inbuilt hardware and software features on your smartphones. But this crucial data has been largely kept limited by the developers, that is the manufacturers of the phone and the developers of the operating system. But other third-party app developers are not given complete access to this data, thereby putting their apps at a disadvantage, which can never compete with the other apps developed by the gatekeepers themselves. Then the proposed laws also seek to tackle the tendency of the big tech companies to wipe out competition through acquisitions and mergers of the smaller companies. So it proposes to mandate the gatekeepers to inform the European Commission, which is another principal organ of the EU, regarding any acquisition and mergers. The new rules also prohibit the gatekeepers from ranking their own products higher and from promoting their own products to the disadvantage of other third-party apps and products and services. It also prohibits them from reusing private data collected through third-party applications for promoting and benefiting their own applications. To strictly enforce these provisions, the law also provides for strict penalties, and those companies which are found to be in violation of these provisions can be fined up to 10% of the company's global annual sales for breaching the law for the first time, and subsequent violations can be punished with penalties up to 20%. In other worst-case scenarios, the penalty for violation could even result in an outright ban against these big tech companies, especially against these companies from acquiring smaller companies. Now the question in your mind would be, why are these rules important for us? See, these rules are important for India and the rest of the world as well, and of course for your exams as well. See, the EU has already put in place one of the most comprehensive data protection laws in the world, known as the General Data Protection Regulation or GDPR. In fact, the UPSC has already asked a prelims question on this. So the EU has become a trendsetter when it comes to regulating the big tech firms and when it comes to dealing with the challenges involved in regulating the digital sector. The EU's data protection laws have already become a benchmark for other countries. So definitely the new Digital Markets Act, which seeks to regulate the gatekeepers to promote fairness and competition, will also set a similar benchmark for the other countries. These rules are being brought out at a time when the big tech firms are under immense pressure and scrutiny around the world, and the EU is clearly taking the first steps to rectify the core issues and problems that are seen to be plaguing this industry. In many other countries as well, similar challenges have come up, such as Australia, India, US, and even in South Korea and Japan. Recently, Australia, for example, brought out a law which mandates some of these companies to share their revenue with the news and media outlets for the revenue that they generate by using the content created by the news and media platforms. In the other countries as well, similar issues have come up related to data privacy, issue of in-app payments, fair and equitable access to third-party app stores, fairness in ranking the applications, concerns surrounding preloaded apps. They've all been raised in many countries. And in fact, South Korea has even passed a law which has specifically banned Apple and Google from forcing the developers to use their own in-app payment systems. The United States is also looking into these questions, and the big tech companies have been questioned and grilled by the US Congress and the Senate. In India as well, similar questions have come up, and there have been serious concerns, not just about fair competition, but also with regard to data privacy and data security. So in this context, the Digital Market Acts of European Union is definitely going to set a benchmark for the other countries, and it is going to have wide sweeping ramifications for the big tech industry. So with this, I would like to conclude today's discussion. If you found this initiative to be helpful, do let us know by liking the video, by sharing the video with fellow aspirants, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.